Of buzz and concern in Washington.
The book sending shockwaves through Washington.
Bombshell new book.
Political game changer for Senate Majority Leader Harry Reid.
The last thing Harry Reid needed was a political problem. He was already in a lot of trouble.
And now it's memories of the 2008 campaign coming back to haunt the Senate Majority Leader. Top Line starts right now.
Hello and welcome to ABCNews.com's Top Line. I'm David Chalian.
And I'm Rick Klein.
Each weekday we're bringing you the very latest political headlines, reporting, insight, analysis, everything you need and want to know about politics.
And it's twitter.com/the note. If you've got something to say, you can say it a little better than Harry Reid. We're all ears.
It was a buzzy weekend in this town. Get us started, sir.
Indeed. Harry's headache. Senate Majority Leader Harry Reid spent the weekend trying to explain away and apologize for a remark that was reported in the new book Game Changer, a book by two prominent political journalists that tells the story of the 2008 campaign. Racially insensitive, to say the least. Harry Reid apologizes. The White House says, we accept that apology. Now Republicans are coming out and calling on him to resign his leadership vote. They don't get a say in that, but all voters in Nevada are going to get a say on Harry Reid, and this just underscores how tough a re-election fight he's got.
His numbers were already dismal. I mean, there was a poll out this weekend that showed him 10 points back before any of this controversy broke. The problem for Harry Reid now is that these words are so just out of touch with the way people talk these days, and I think you're seeing a generational divide, and I think you're just seeing somebody adding to a mound of political problems. And it's not that this will have him lose his job in November, but it certainly is going to make his uphill climb that much tougher. Labor pains. Yes, President Obama versus big labor. That's what's going on at the White House today. He's calling in labor leaders to have a frank discussion, I'm sure, about that so-called Cadillac tax that he wants to include in the final health care bill that he signs. This is the tax on high-priced health care plans that the labor movement is adamantly opposed to. They much prefer the House version. President Obama already signaled to House leaders last week he really wants this in there. He wants to go the way the Senate has it, but it is not going to be pretty between these so-called allies.
The pain for labor is going to be in them swallowing their pride and going back on their words in the past and saying it would be unacceptable to have a Cadillac tax. Well, they're going to have to accept that, and I think everyone expects them to do it. Some of the groundwork gets done today at the White House. Should be interesting. Mass appeal. We've been telling you for months on this program how it's a snoozer in Massachusetts in that race to fill Ted Kennedy's old Senate seat. Maybe not so fast. It's getting a little more interesting. The Boston Globe has a poll that still has Martha Coakley, the Democrat, up 15 points. But there's other polling that may dispute that, and Republicans are a little optimistic. You know, David, if Scott Brown, the Republican, can come within single digits of beating the Democrat, moral victories, whatever you want to talk about, there'll be national implications. If he were to win, holy cow, wow, all of a sudden you're talking about 41 Republicans and no health care bill in all likelihood.
Well, if he were to win, it's the health care bill that would be the immediate big story and the huge immediate national implication. You heard Paul Kirk say that he would still vote for this health care bill, try not to certify Dan Brown. That would cause such blowback that I don't see how the Democrats could pull that off. So yes, if Dan Brown were to pull this out, it would be huge. If not, I'm a big believer in a win is a win and a loss is a loss.
Scott Brown, Dan Brown, the author.
Sorry, thank you very much, Scott Brown. And finally today, the General's Outlook. Diane Sawyer out in Afghanistan. She'll be reporting there for World News tonight from Kabul. She was touring around with Stan McChrystal, the general there in Afghanistan, and he said the tide is turning in Afghanistan. It's a very positive outlook. We have a new poll out that perhaps supports some of that idea that Afghans really are starting to feel a little bit better about their future than we've seen in some time.
The polling backing up what McChrystal hopes is the message out of there, that beginning to turn the corner. It's optimistic for Americans to see the Afghan people begin to come around on this.
No doubt. We're going to begin with the political buzz that's been out there and, of course, the major health care debate underway today as well. Karen Tumulty of Time Magazine, thank you very much for being here. Before we get to health care, let's begin with this bombshell book. Your colleague Mark Halpern at Time Magazine and John Heilman of New York Magazine. Take a look at the quote that we're going to put up on the screen here from Game Change. This is on Harry Reid, who called Barack Obama light-skinned and, quote, with no Negro dialect unless he wanted to have one. This is Harry Reid in private conversation, according to the book, how he described his assessment of why Barack Obama could be a successful African-American candidate. Was he speaking the truth?
Well, he was speaking a truth, but I mean, the fact is that Barack Obama also brought to the table some really extraordinary political talents. And so I think that, you know, that there is really no history that would suggest that Harry Reid is a racist. There's a lot of history that suggests that he is not really good with words.
So, confirm that, certainly. Maybe the most compelling reason for him not to get ousted from leadership is that the White House really needs him there right now. They're trying to put together 60 votes on health care, and the health care thing continues to play out. What do you think the message at the White House is going to be today to these labor leaders who have been so critical of the funding mechanism backed by the Senate?
The message is going to be, there's a deal here, let's make it. And what they're probably going to do is move the threshold so that, that fewer and fewer of these policies would get taxed. The real problem, by the way, in this so-called Cadillac tax is the way it gets indexed, because inflation moves more slowly than the price of health care, and as a result, as the years go by, more and more policies would find themselves getting caught with this 40% excise tax.
Like the alternative minimum tax, right? I mean, that
Exactly.
is the same kind of problem. But you have labor leaders who have fought very hard for Barack Obama's election, while Barack Obama was hammering John McCain with television ads on this very topic. Do they have, I mean, they don't have anywhere else to go. Obviously, labor is part of the Democratic operation, but do you sense that they would take some sort of retribution out of the White House, maybe in the 2010 midterms, not show up as much as they would have?
There is so much else in this bill that they want, starting with coverage of over 30 million Americans, that I think that if and when this bill passes, it is going to be marked as such a gigantic achievement that these kind of fights ultimately will not bear out in some sort of, retribution or anything else.
So we expect that they work out some kind of deal on the Cadillac tax. We've got a host of other issues. We've heard about the public option, which seems to be totally gone. The abortion thing seems to be worked out. What kind of time frame do you think we're looking at right now?
Okay, here's the thing you really need to be watching, the Congressional Budget Office, because even if they can get a deal, it is going to take, I've heard estimates from 10 days to 14 days to get a score back from the Congressional Budget Office. So it is really hard to imagine this bill passing by the end of January, because after that, you have to take it to the Senate floor again. And the Republicans are not going to let this just sort of windmill through.
So then this idea that the White House, which has already ruled out a State of the Union on February 2nd because they don't want to compete with the Lost premiere on ABC,
There's a metaphor there somewhere.
They were looking at potentially January 26th, but we still don't have a State of the Union date, largely because they don't know when this bill is going to come. Put your sort of political pundit hat on here for a moment. How necessary is it that the president have a bill by the time he gives his State of the Union address?
I think they're going to have to figure a way around this. I just don't see how it happens. What they really need is this bill to pass as quickly as possible, because A, they can turn their attention to jobs and an economic message, and two, B, they can start selling this bill. They can start telling people what it is they're going to like about this bill rather than fighting over it legislatively.
The salesmanship important. I want to ask you about the controversy that's been bubbling up online, and I know you've blogged about it and some others as well, about Jonathan Gruber, the MIT economist, that it turns out has actually been paid by HHS for consulting services, didn't disclose this relationship when he was quoted by a lot of journalists, including at Time Magazine, ABC, lots of places, and by the White House very approvingly. Was this handled badly by someone? I mean, should there have been a more disclosure of these relationships?
Absolutely. And by the way, those of us in the press should have asked. I mean, that is also, the Washington Post is now saying that he did not, answer fully when they asked for his financial disclosure on an op-ed piece he wrote for them. But my sense is that what these government agencies are paying for is Jonathan Gruber's data, not his spinning services. And if that's what they thought they were buying, they weren't getting much return for their investment, because Gruber has a history of saying some things that have been pretty inconvenient, let's say, for this administration and its health plan.
Karen Tumulty of Time Magazine, thank you very much for being here.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it.